guys, and welcome to the latest episode of Mr. Oshodi's Snapshot Science. Now in today's video we want to look at the human eye, and this is the first part of 2 videos. Now hopefully by the end of this video you're able to 1. Label the structure of the eye. We then want you to be able to state the function of these structures, and finally we want you to be able to describe and explain the pupil reflex. So keep sight, get it? Let's get right into it. Now guys, remember, if we're looking at the structure of the eye, okay, it's important that you're able to label the structures. Now at this point I would say, okay, pause the video and either take a screenshot or find a detailed image online, print it out and stick it into your books. If you're in one of my classes, I'll print this out for you to stick in. Now, let's look at these structures individually, alright? We'll do that over the next 2 videos. And most importantly, we want to state the function of each structure. So let's get right into it. Now, the part of the eye that contains the receptors. Don't forget we said the eye is a sensory organ. The part of the eye that contains the receptors is known as the retina. And it's towards the back of the eye. Now, it's very sensitive to light, okay? And if we're talking about the other structures, they're simply involved in either protecting the retina or focusing light onto the retina. Now, the front of the eye, alright, is covered in a thin transparent layer known as the conjunctiva. The conjunctiva essentially helps protect anything else in the eye that's behind it. Alright? Now, the conjunctiva must be kept moist. Alright? And it's kept moist by a fluid that's secreted from the tear glands. Alright? Now, in this fluid, we have a really special enzyme known as lysozyme. This lysozyme is important because it helps kill any bacteria that might be on the eye. Now, any other dirt is stopped getting onto the eye by your eyebrows, your eyelashes, or your eyelids. Okay, so let's look at the rest of the eye. Now, the eye is inside a socket in your head, and this socket is known as the orbit. All right, and the orbit essentially is where the eye is jammed into. Okay, now the outer layer of the eye is a tough coating, and it helps protect the eye. Is known as the sclera. The sclera is essentially the white part of the eye. It's the part that appears white. Okay, and it surrounds most of your eye. Okay, and in particular your cornea. And we're going to look at the cornea and the role of the cornea in the next video. Now, as we said, the retina is at the back of the eye. When light enters the eye and falls on light receptor cells in the retina, a signal is sent along the optic nerve, okay? And this optic nerve sends the signals to your brain for it to translate the images and let you know what you're seeing, okay? Now, there are different receptor cells which we will look at, okay? And these receptor cells are sensitive to different colors, okay, wavelengths, etc., which is really important in helping us distinguish in color, okay? Now, there is a section where the optic nerve meets the retina. There are no light receptor cells in the section where the optic nerve meets the retina, okay? And this is therefore known as your blind spot. So if light falls on this section, there will be no electrical impulses sent along the optic nerve to the brain, simply because there's no receptor cells there, okay? Now, just behind the retina, you have a structure known as the choroid. Now, the choroid is very smart, okay? It's very important because it essentially absorbs all of the light once it has passed through the retina. Now, this is important because it stops light scattering, okay, inside the eye, all right? Now, the choroid is also rich in blood vessels, so it helps maintain the nourishment of the eye, if we say. Okay, so the choroid absorbs, okay, light after it's passed through the retina. And this is the reason why your pupils actually appear black, okay, because light isn't scattering around your eye, okay, it's being absorbed. All of it is being absorbed by the choroid. Now, we spoke about our retina and the receptor cells. Now, there are 2 different types of receptor cells that you must know about, and these receptor cells are very different, okay? They are known as our rod cells and our cone cells, and both are our receptor cells. Now, the rods work at very low light intensities. They're essentially involved in our night vision, all right? The rods don't help us see color, okay? There are lots of rods in the eye, okay, in the retina in particular, okay, but they don't help you essentially see anything in color, and a lot of them are packed towards the edge of the retina. So, for example, you can see they help with your peripheral vision. I can see something is there, but I'm not 100% 100% sure what it is, or sometimes not even sure the color of the object. All right. Now, on the other hand, we have our cone cells. Now, there are a lot more rod cells in the retina than the cone cells, but the cone cells help us see in color. We have 3 different types of cone cells. We have our blue, our green, and our red cone cells. Now, in the middle of the retina, there's a little spot, and this spot is known as the fovea. And the fovea essentially is packed full of cone cells, okay? The cone cells, remember we said, the cone cells help us see in high light intensities, okay? So when you look right bang at an object, you see it clearly and you see the color. Whereas with our rod cells, okay, you don't see a color, okay, you don't see it clearly, all right? Now, any animals that are, that need to see, for example, at night, okay, will have a lot more rod cells than humans, all right? And this is important because obviously they need essentially night vision, all right, to be able to see well in low light intensities. And that's what our rod cells help us with. Now, if we were to compare the two, okay, our rod cells provide us with a low detail, okay, black and white image, okay, but it's good for us seeing in low light intensity, whereas our cone cells provide us with detailed, colored images, and they help us see in high light intensities. All right? Our rod cells are packed mostly around the edge of the retina, where our cone cells are tightly packed in the middle of the retina in a spot known as the fovea. And hopefully you've labeled the fovea in the image that you've printed off. Now, guys, if you remember in our last video, we was looking at reflexes. And this is a reflex we looked at, the pupil reflex. The pupils, okay, reflex, essentially controls the amount of light entering our eye. Okay? Now, this is controlled by a circular bit of muscle, okay? And this circular bit of muscle is known as the iris. Alright, the iris is essentially the ring of muscle that's around the pupil. The pupil is essentially like a gap, okay? Now, the iris controls the amount of light entering the eye. And this is important, and I'll tell you why, okay? If too much light enters the eye, okay, this could damage the photoreceptor cells, okay, in the eye. Okay, this is not a good thing. However, if not enough light enters the eye, all right, essentially you might not be able to send a stimulus along the nerve impulse because not enough stimulus has been created. So you want the right amount of light to enter the eye. Okay, and this is controlled by the iris. Okay, the iris will either, okay, allow the pupils to dilate or allow the pupils to constrict. It will dilate if you want more light into the eye, or it will constrict if you want to reduce the amount of light entering the eye. Okay. Now the iris is made up of 2 circular bits of muscles. Okay. 2 bits of muscles: the circular muscles and the radial muscles. Now these have opposite effects. Okay, but they're working for common goals. All right. Essentially to control the amount of light in the eye. And therefore they are known as our antagonistic muscles, okay? Now, they have the opposite effect. If the radial muscles contract, this causes the pupils to dilate and allow more light to enter the eye. If the circular muscles contract, this causes the pupils to constrict and reduces the amount of light entering the eye. So the radial muscles are important in dilating, essentially allowing more light to enter our eye. And the circular muscles are important in constriction and reducing the amount of light that enters the eye. Okay? Now, if we compare the two, okay, which they might do in your exam, they might ask you to compare the radial and circular muscles. Okay? Now, hopefully by the end of this video, and by the end of part 1, you're able to label the structure of the eye. Hopefully you're also able to describe the function of all structures of the eye. And finally, hopefully you're able to describe and explain how the pupil reflex works. Stay tuned for part 2, which is looking at focusing light, okay, onto the retina, okay? Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and revise. Mr. Oshodi, signing out.